My name is Joe Prony, and this is the Rise Above Project. And today I want to talk about why anti-bullying programs don't work. This is going to be part one. There's a lot of information here. Let me start off by saying that this might be triggering for some people. And so I want to make sure that we know that up front. Because right now, these anti-bullying programs, as they are, not only don't they work, but they never have worked, and they actually cause a lot more damage than any good that they might be providing. And again, I know that might be triggering for people because we're not supposed to say that. The way it is right now, if you're against these anti-bullying programs, that somehow you would be railroaded into that somehow you're pro-bullying. And that doesn't make any sense. Nobody wants to see actual bullying, but I think we should all want to seek actual good answers of how to figure out this problem. So let me start off with a couple of questions right off the top to make everybody think. If a child goes to school and they're the type of kid that doesn't have that many friends, and maybe they get made fun of because of whatever reason, maybe the type of clothes that they wear. And this happens a lot. Let's say that happens. This kid goes home and they steal a gun from their parents, or they get a hold of a gun. And they come back to school and they murder a bunch of teachers and their classmates. Question is, who's the bully? I know, it's something we don't want to think about, right? Let me give you another one. What if I told you that most true professionals in the field of child development are absolutely 100% against these anti-bullying programs the way they are these days? But they're not allowed to talk about it because, again, they get pushed into thinking like these types of people don't have any empathy, they're pro-bullying, that they want to see kids beat each other up, these types of things. So if they're not allowed to talk without somebody maybe going after their license or trying to hurt their practice, the question becomes, who's the bully? It might be the people who are supporting these anti-bullying programs, right? Here's another one. This came up the other day for me. I mean, this stuff comes up on a daily basis, but in this particular situation, I was in a clinical supervision. And one of the stories that came up, let me get this right. What if a child is 7 years old and they're in a class and they say that they identify as a dragon? Should they get in trouble for that, for bullying another kid? It's a good question, because what's coming up these days in a lot of these classes, I guess, they're talking about it. But does a 7-year-old really know the difference between what a child, if they identify as non-binary? Does the average 7-year-old understand that people can identify as male or female no matter what their sexual organs are? I mean, I'm a 57-year-old man, and some of the people that I talk to that are my age, they don't even understand that. So I'm wondering if somebody could try to get a 7-year-old kid in trouble for saying that he wants to identify as a dragon. Was there malice there? Was the 7-year-old trying to be mean? Does it make sense? So again, I would ask the question, who's the bully? So just some things to think about. Now, what comes up a lot is what exactly is bullying? And I think we can agree that bullying for sure, I mean, if it's physical, where someone's actually physically going to harm somebody, that's definitely bullying. Or even the threat of physical violence, I think we could all say is bullying. But then I think it gets on shaky ground, because then we start looking at who hurt whose feelings, who left somebody out. Somebody had a birthday party, but they didn't invite every third grader to that birthday party. So it becomes a little bit shaky of what bullying really is. So let's take a look at what stopbullying.gov says about what is bullying. I'll read it straight from their website so there's no misunderstanding. They say verbal bullying is saying or writing mean things. Okay, so already we got a problem, right? So we're going to police people from saying something that's mean. All right? What does this include? It includes teasing, name calling, inappropriate sexual comments, taunting, and threatening to cause harm. I think we could say threatening to cause harm is definitely a problem. Inappropriate sexual comments for sure. But part of the problem that we have here is that the person whose feelings are hurt gets to determine if bullying happened. But you're not allowed to call into question the other person's emotional maturity, or maybe that they're being overly sensitive. So it's the call of the person who's crying or gets hurt that can get somebody else in trouble for saying the wrong word. We can see where the problems are going to be here. Social bullying, sometimes referred to as relational bullying, involves hurting somebody's reputation or relationships. Social bullying includes leaving somebody out on purpose, telling other children not to be friends with somebody, spreading rumors about someone, and embarrassing somebody in public. All of these have problems, right? Embarrassing somebody in public. I think every child has embarrassed their parent in some way, and I think every parent has embarrassed their child in some way. And by the way, you cannot hurt somebody's reputation by saying a bad word, only if there's emotional immaturity. Such as if somebody says, "Oh, that guy Joe Peroni, he's a terrible therapist." If somebody listens to that without having any evidence or actually having known me or talked to me, I don't want that person as a client anyway. They're too immature. Like who in the world actually listens to somebody make a comment and they take that as like God's word? Like, so you can't do that. It's not part of being an educated or a socially mature person that takes into account a person's point of view and doesn't take into their point of view at all, or their own experience. So that doesn't make sense. So no, I understand what they're saying, but you can't harm somebody's reputation by saying a bad word. It takes the immaturity of the other person to believe somebody, actually. Leaving somebody out on purpose? How do you not? Like, this happens all the time. People have preferences. I mean, you want to hang out with this person, you want to hang out with that person, you eat lunch with this person, you don't eat lunch with that person. The men or girls or boys who play sports tend to hang out together. The ones who are a little bit more into their books and, being... getting good grades, they tend to hang out together. The ones who like music, they hang out a little more. Yeah, you're going to leave people out. That's the way it is. I don't even understand how you would police that. And the last one on this list, physical bullying, involves hurting a person's body or possessions. No need to really talk about that because that's obvious. I think everybody can agree. Nothing physical should be happening, and that should not be allowed at all. So what are the institutions' solutions on this? What are schools doing? By the way, they're not taking their lead from developmental psychologists, though, which is really interesting. I'm not even sure where they're getting their information from, really. But I know it doesn't work, and we all know it doesn't work. So institution solutions, let's go over these. So number one, adults or teachers, they're supposed to monitor children's social lives to prevent anyone's feelings from being hurt. Is that even possible? No. And why should adults be sitting around watching children talk all the time and monitoring to see if somebody's feelings get hurt? Or we're going to go from an opinion of a 7-year-old saying this person harmed me because they said something wrong, or they don't like my shoes, or they don't like the color of my shirt. That doesn't make sense. So number two, They want to recruit children to be snitches and tell teachers when other people hurt their feelings. There's no better way to make somebody a pariah or to make somebody unwanted or unliked when you have a kid who's constantly going to a teacher to tell on them because of what somebody said, or they didn't do something, or they did do something that the person didn't appreciate or like. That makes no sense. I mean, some of these kids need to be able to figure some of this stuff out for themselves. Half the time when somebody says a negative word to somebody or they have a disagreement, if you leave them be, they'll figure it out and they'll end up being friends later on. I mean, even adults, we argue all the time. It doesn't mean that you can't have a relationship, and it doesn't mean that you can never disagree with somebody. It doesn't make any sense. Number 3, an institution solutions. You'll love this one. Some schools, they're eliminating recess and they're shortening lunch periods. Why? They're doing this to decrease socialization. Decrease socialization? Why? Because there's a chance that somebody might get hurt. There's a chance that somebody might say something that they don't like. Some kid might be a Raiders fan, he's wearing a Raiders shirt, and somebody else likes the Kansas City Chiefs. And they might get into an argument and they're gonna say your team is bad, and who knows what could happen when people disagree. That's where we're going these days. Number 4, they forbid physical contact. A lot of schools now, they say you can only play tag by stepping on each other's shadows. What? Do you think these kids are going to grow up to be productive, normal adults? There's no way. They're stepping on each other's shadows because they're afraid to touch somebody. We used to play, two-hand tag, two-hand touch, whatever, one hand. You can't play football anymore with, what's going on? This doesn't make sense. Some schools are hiring recess coaches to supervise all playing activities. And they're against having the kids pick teams because it might make somebody feel bad because somebody gets picked over somebody else. As if that doesn't happen in real life, right? Like when you have a boy and he wants to date a girl as he gets older, somehow he thinks now he's entitled that every girl should say yes to him because there's been no rejection in his life up to that, right? So now we're creating bullies because what's going to happen is this boy who has been sheltered from being picked 10th because he's not good at, say, soccer, and he wanted to be picked first, but it doesn't matter because they're not picking teams anymore. The 10th best person is going to be put in the same league as the person who's number 1, right? Because we're not understanding that there's differences in people. And so when he asks a girl out on a date, he should expect something from her, right? No. Why? Because she has autonomy. She can say yes, she can say no, and she can also say, no, I don't really like you that much. There's somebody else I like better than you. And that might be the first time he's ever heard that. That kid goes home, gets a shotgun, and comes back and teaches everybody a lesson. Why? Because we have not taught him a lesson earlier in his life. No scoring in sports now because we don't want to hurt people's feelings. Okay, but life is about scoring, isn't it? We go to work, some people get paid more than others. Sometimes it's fair, sometimes it's not, but a lot of times it's fair. Somebody has more experience, they have more education, they're performing better. There's a reason why there's a hierarchy, but we're trying to teach kids that there's no hierarchy. There's a hierarchy in everything. There's a hierarchy in dating, to go back to that for a second. Let's continue. What the institution solutions include is that the child with the hurt feelings is always right, which teaches the kid that the biggest victim always wins. And of course, if you're a victim because your feelings are hurt, anything you do to correct that is okay. We're creating not just bullies, but we're creating a bunch of people that should end up behind bars, actually. So let's go back a little bit. Let's talk about children's solutions from past generations. And I'm talking about back into the 1800s. And I found this to be really interesting. This is what they used to teach kids. And we all know this. We all think it's funny, but it actually works. So number one, I'm rubber, you're glue. Whatever you say bounces right back to you. Now, what I find interesting about this is that although it's a kid's statement, it actually works. Because what you're talking about is projection. Freud talked about this. So if somebody says something bad to you, really it's coming from them. So it's a projection. So actually, we used to teach kids high-end psychology from Freud, which I think is amazingly interesting. And by the way, it worked. Nowadays, we teach you that you're a victim no matter what, and you should take it personally to the core of your being if somebody disagrees with you or says something negative about you. Continuing, here's another child saying, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never break me." We've changed this. But words will destroy me to the point where I need to get you back. And then I'm going to call you the bully. Like, this makes no sense. Like, I get it, right? Because we all are wired for connection. So if somebody doesn't like you and they say something bad, yeah, it can bother you for sure. But should it ruin your life? Should you have kids being depressed, going through suicidal ideations, and some kids committing suicide over this because somebody said something bad to them, or they put something on Facebook that was unkind? We're raising a bunch of kids that do not have resilience or any ability to handle any type of adversity. And by the way, somebody disagreeing with you or not liking something about you is really not an adversity, by the way. That's just normal. Let's continue. Let's move up the ladder a little bit and talk about solutions from developmental psychologists, people who should know. They say that children need to experience age-appropriate negative social experiences. Why? To develop resilience, social skills, to have meaningful relationships, and the ability to advocate for themselves. What does advocating for yourself do? Builds confidence, builds self-esteem. So there you go. So we could have anti-bullying programs to make every single kid say the exact word that each individual other kid is afraid to hear. So we need to modify each and everything we say and do for each and every unique child who may or may not be offended by things. We could go in that direction. Or we could teach kids to be empowered and to have self-esteem and to ask the real question: why are you so offended when somebody has a different opinion? Like, should that destroy your life? And if it does, the problem doesn't lie with the so-called bully. The problem lies with the child who has no self-esteem and hates themselves and really doesn't know if they're good or bad, but they're going by the opinions of other people. That's far more dangerous. What else do developmental psychologists say? They say that the constant supervision of children's social lives prevents natural interactions and destroys healthy development. I'm going to go with that. I don't think you can argue with that. Let's go back a long time ago and let's look at some Stoic solutions real quick, because I want to keep the show relatively short. I have a lot to say on it, and I can use a lot of examples, but I'm going to try to keep it definitely within 25 minutes. So here's some Stoic solutions. Number one, you have to realize this. Nobody makes you angry because you have the power to choose your response. This is a fact. When anti-bullying programs don't accept this or don't talk about it, they're turning their head from a fact. Here's a question. why are many kids these days committing suicide? Now, to be upfront about this, there are more kids today committing suicide, and there are more kids having suicidal ideations. So how are we doing? We're not doing well. These programs don't work. But it goes back to the question, why are a lot of these kids committing suicide? And here's the terrible answer. It's because another kid told them to. I know, that's tough to hear, right? Like if you have a kid at school, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, 15 years old, and another kid says, hey, you should go kill yourself because I don't like you, we don't like you, and the kid goes home and does, okay, I'm not saying that that's good. A person should never say that to somebody, I understand that. However, isn't the problem much deeper in a child or a young adult who, when a person says go kill yourself, they actually do it? What is going on inside that mind? That's the person we need to take care of. It's not going to be about, oh, this person said a bad word to you. It's if you can hear that and you literally say, I am going to make it a goal to kill myself, we're not teaching these kids very well. We're not teaching them how to deal with adversity. We're not teaching them resilience. We're not teaching them confidence and self-esteem and all the things that they need to go through life. All we're doing is trying to tell other kids, don't say anything bad. Yeah, but kids do. People do. Loving people do. There's people in relationships. I'm a marriage and family therapist. I deal with couples all the time. There's people that have been together 10, 20, 30 years, and they still have the ability to say something very mean and nasty to their partner when they're angry. But you don't go out and kill yourself though, right? So we need to get a lot deeper into this situation. More Stoic solutions. We need to teach discipline to prevent kids from allowing their emotional well-being to be controlled by other people. Again, what kind of kids are we raising? That we send a kid out into the world and we go, listen, if there's any discrepancies, if there's any arguments, just fall apart immediately and tell people that you can't handle them talking in a certain way. It gets to the point where you see commercial on TV or the radio, and that's offensive. You know, everything is offensive now. It doesn't make any sense. So here's a quick review of this. Anti-bullying programs don't work. They're actually making the problem significantly worse. These anti-bullying programs are turning kids into professional whiners, professional children for the rest of their life. Even as they get older, they still have the emotional maturity of, I would say a 5-year-old, but back in the day, 5-year-olds knew how to say, sticks and stones may break my bones, right? So they're like less than 5-year-olds. So yeah, they're becoming professional whiners, they're becoming professional victims. And all of this, instead of doing the right thing, which is to teach self-empowerment. So I think I'll end it right there. I'll have more to say on this on another show. Hopefully this was valuable and not too triggering for you, but if you disagree with me, that's okay. You can do that, but I want to see your material. I want to see what evidence you have of these anti-bullying programs working. I want to see what other things that you can show me to say how this is definitely working, especially when you're going against developmental psychologists. And again, a lot of the professionals, we're the ones who are being bullied. Because who's taking over? And I'm going to show you this next week. Go on TikTok. There's a bunch of non-professionals just trying to get attention, talking about bullying. And there's millions upon millions, billions of views on this. But if you get a professional that says, hey, listen, you need to get your kids to stand up and be strong, to have some self-esteem, to be able to have confidence in yourself. Nobody wants to hear that. All they want to do is play the victim because there seems to be a lot of power in that. But anyway, I've said enough for today. I said it would be 25 minutes. It's 25:05, so we're going to end it right there. Hopefully this has been valuable to you. My name is Joe Prodi, and this is the Rise Above Project. Please subscribe and tell a friend. Thank you.